All right, this is the Yay, I'm Red Clay.
And Norman G.
This is the Yay, where we talk about life in the theater and the theater of life.
Yay!
And we want to thank Central Works for sponsoring the Yay. Central Works, reinventing theater one play at a time. And we have a special guest, Jonathan Williams. You are the artistic director of Tabard Theatre. Jonathan, welcome.
Correct. Thank you so much for having me on. Really, really happy to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been chasing you for a bit, but, you've, things have been busy and, obviously, life has made a lot of changes. And, earlier this year, you became artistic director. When I first contacted you, I saw you on stage at the, and I was wondering if you'd even remembered it, the Aurora Theater. You did The Collectors.
Yeah, yes, The Creditors.
I'm sorry, The Creditors, yes.
No problem. Yeah, over a year ago. I can't believe that it's been a year. And absolutely, I remember the night clearly. I remember you sitting in the audience. I remember your body language. I noticed you right off the bat because you were so engaged. You were so with us there that night. And then when you reached out a couple of days later, I was like, oh, I get it. Now I understand. I put it all together. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic.
Wow.
I know it's been a while trying to get this to happen, but I'm very excited about what we have to talk about right now as far as what's going on in my life and what I've got going on over at Tabard Theatre. So everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. As I begin every podcast, how was your week, Norman?
Oh, my week is because you lived it with me. Good God. Reg and I are both Reg was in a reading of Mattie May, a new play, and I directed. And we had almost no production staff, which I will not ever let happen again. But so I ended up wearing a lot more hats than I wanted to be wearing. But I thought it was wonderful, and I thought we got a chance to take this story, Bay Area story. Richmond in World War II exploded from 23,000 people to over 94,000 people in 3 years during the war effort. And so this is a story centering around a diner there, diner juke joint. Turns out the historical woman actually was the first African-American woman to get her liquor license. So we sort of see that story unfolding, story of workers, a couple of other little romance, all these stories of the people of Richmond dealing with this time. Exciting piece, a lot of fun, and a lot of work. And tonight we will do Radio Golf, August Wilson's Radio Golf, which is the last in his, what's it called, the Pittsburgh cycle?
Yeah.
One play for every decade of the 20th century, and this is the play for the 90s. Kind of touches on gentrification. It's very fun, and both Reg and I are in that as well. So it's been a lot of theater, given that you can't go anywhere. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting that although I haven't been on a stage, all this year, but I've been more busier than I've ever been because people are starved for content. So it's pretty cool. And it's very cool that Tabard Theatre, the very concept of doing live theater via, a camera and, and having, a live production is very, very cool now. And it's innovative. And I think that other theater companies should think about it. It almost blends the genre of theater and live TV. So I think it's awesome what Tabard Theatre is doing.
Well, thank you very much.
Wow, that's right. Yeah, I can't wait. We'll hear about that.
Yeah, exactly. There have been a couple of current events. I mean, obviously, COVID-19 has, ravaged the United States, and now the Republican National Convention has been canceled. I don't even know if it even...
Right.
It moved from, I think, North Carolina to Florida, Jacksonville, and then Trump at the last minute was like, okay, fine, whatever, we can't do it. So
wasn't Kansas even going to do it?
Yeah, I think so. He was so desperate. And also what's interesting, there's been a lot of stuff regarding, now Trump is saying he wants schools open or there won't be any funding. So he's holding that over state and local governments. And also I've been troubled by these troops that have been showing up at Portland, and I think they're also showing up in Chicago and Albuquerque. These aren't...
And I promise you, we will be in the street. I personally will be down in downtown Oakland if they try to show up here.
Yeah. Jonathan, can I get your perspective? I mean, what do you think about what's been going on, and are you optimistic about the upcoming election? What's your take on living in the age of Trump?
Well, I'm optimistic that there might be a gigantic Democratic landslide here in a couple of months. I think that's the only thing that's going to bring us back from the edge of, dare I say, fascism. It's been, I have been for the last 4 years just appalled at everything that's been coming out of the presidency. What's been happening, especially. It's just put into such focus with what the response to the COVID situation is. And isn't, absolutely. The fact that we are the only first world country that is struggling in the same way that we are. You've got Italy and Germany, even the United Kingdom's just doing so much better. We are supposed to be the country that should be able to handle this better than any other country in the world. And we are just doing a terrible, terrible job. And it's not because we don't have the capability, that we just don't have the leadership.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you're absolutely right. The polls have Biden, ahead in almost every single poll. Even Fox News has Biden ahead, which is incredible. I mean, well, it's interesting. I was watching the interview that Trump did with Chris Wallace. Son of Mike Wallace. And, yeah, very powerful. I had been disappointed with Chris Wallace. I was like, man, Mike, if your dad were alive, he would do so much better. But he really proved me wrong this time around. He really pushed Trump's on a lot of things. And, of course, Trump followed up with another interview with Fox with another reporter talking about his passing his cognitive test, basically saying that he told you. I mean, it was hilarious. I was watching.
I love that he says that, though, because this is a test for dementia, and he says he aced it. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds right.
Yep.
It's a little crazy.
The bar is just so low right now that's an achievement on his scale, right?
Right.
Yep, I remembered 5 things in order.
It's crazy.
Have you seen the Sarah Cooper? The Sarah Cooper is hilarious on that one.
Oh, no, and I hadn't heard about that. But yeah,
she's a comedian, and she's been taking Trump these press conferences, the crazy things that he says on mic, and then she just plays the audio, and she said she got the idea from sitting in boardrooms and watching these arrogant young men go off on about something that they obviously knew nothing about, and just making shit up, and people nodding and smiling and going, oh, well, that's cool. And she's like, I always wanted to be one of those guys. And so she's just taking Trump's audio verbatim and just doing this thing that is, you have to see it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And on a lighter note, well, I don't know if it's lighter or not, but I'm a little worried about Kanye West. Kanye has been,
Kanye 2020.
Yeah. But, it ties into Black, and we talked about this on the other podcast, Black in the Bay, but I wonder, and it gets into, the protesting and Black Lives Matter, but the mentality, the psychology, the mental health. I really do believe that COVID-19 are tapping into, I watch some of the individuals who get violent because, they attack a store owner because they weren't allowed to go into the stores because they don't wear their mask. And I don't know what's going on with Kanye West and Kim, and I try not to get into the social stuff, but a lot of people think he's just.
I don't know, Kim for First Lady.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
They're talking about Kanye wants to divorce Kim, and he's lashing out, and
what?
Had issues with his mother. Oh yeah, you hadn't heard about that? Yeah. So, but I do wonder about our collective mental health and how we're handling either isolation or not being able to go to the movie theaters and all that sort of stuff. And it made me think, and this isn't like my last rant before we go into an origin story, but, the greatest generation, during the war times, World War I and II, they sacrificed. They did rationing. They fruitless Tuesdays, meatless Wednesdays. And it was a problem for them. Why is it so hard for us to sacrifice just wearing a mask or sacrifice? And that's the reason why our COVID numbers are so up, because people won't do what they're supposed to do.
Right.
So I just wonder, where's our ability to sacrifice? So
I saw beautiful graphs. New York, as it went into it, went up, and then has come down. And California, which was low, and then woo. Like, oh no.
Yeah, exactly. And Florida's even worse. So.
Oh yeah.
So
When we're comparing ourselves to Florida, we're in trouble.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right. And with that, let's get
one thing, if I can dovetail off of what you were saying.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The thing that I think when you're talking about like the mental health of the nation and how crazy we're all going because of the COVID-19 and Black Lives Matter and murder hornets and everything else you can possibly think of. The one ray of hope that I think in the back, to get real change to happen, I think needs to have extreme circumstance. We got a great nation. We have the ability to actually make change because we're a democracy, because we are the type of nation built in the way that we have been. But we have seen over and over again the fact that we have institutionalized problems. We have core problems. And just watching the numbers of people that have been out on the street because of the Black Lives Matter movement, people that are really wanting to do things like, there are actual legitimate governments talking about defunding police departments and things like that. I think that we are on the precipice of actually seeing something really profound happen here in the country. And I hope that the election has something to do with that. But more than anything, people are motivated right now in a way that I have never seen in my whole life. And I took to the streets to protest the wars in the Middle East. I've been trying to affect social change through the art that I do. I feel like right now something might actually happen. And because of the culmination of all these things, then great. Let's make it happen. Let's be a part of that.
No, that sounds great.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's unfortunate that sometimes you think that people are motivated by love. Sometimes people are motivated by hate or anger. And they're so frustrated. They get off the couch and says, hey, I got to do something about this, whatever the this is. It may be Black Lives Matter or the Me Too movement or the environmental movement. If it's, something has to motivate us to get out and, make the change, be the change if you're waiting and nothing happens. Mm-hmm. So I totally agree with you, Jonathan. And so
it's amazing to see people on the street and just engaged to the level that they are now. I hope this energy can survive for 5. My wife was phone banking. You're going to do it next time. And I'm going to do it. I am, because I overheard she was talking to Arizona. Do you know where snowflakes come from? Arizona. Turns out. There's a town. But I heard her, and all they're doing is calling, just asking people if they're registered and if they know if they've got vote by mail, that they need to get it in, telling them their date. That's it. If they ask anything more, I heard her one call talk about McSally. And I was like, yes, oh yes, that'll be so worth doing. But I want to say, before we jump to an origin story, I've been seeing your name since Reg booked you. And I'm like, Jonathan Williams, whatever. I look on the website and I'm like, Jonathan Reese? Whoa, wait a minute. I've known this name for a long time. I've been hearing your name in Bay Area theater for a long time. So I am so thrilled that you are on today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I don't often put the Reese in there when I just conversation. I'm John Williams, but yeah, Jonathan Reese Williams, that's the full equity name. And yeah, I've been kicking it here in the Bay Area and up in Sacramento too, because I was up there for a while.
Nice.
But, in California, doing the best work that I can for as long as I can make it happen.
It's been great.
So let's get into it. How did you get involved in theater? Were you born and raised here in the Bay or California?
Yeah, born and raised in the Bay Area, South Bay specifically. My parents moved to this country in 1962. They are immigrants, came from the United Kingdom. They are both Welsh. I was born out here. My sister was born out here. I grew up on the outskirts of Los Gatos, Campbell kind of neck of the woods.
Oh, okay.
I always feel a little bit like that people are going to think that I had a silver spoon or something. That was not the case. My dad was a professor over at San Jose State University for the better part of his life. And we just happened to, land in a nice little house out there in the suburbs. But I grew up in the South Bay, saw all the work that was going on here. 5 years old, I was in my first Christmas pageant.
Oh, no.
I was I was a bit of a hyperactive kid. Used to bounce off the walls all the time, and my parents stuck me in one of these little Christmas to-dos. And my mom says she saw me stand still for the first time for 20 minutes straight. And she said, "Oh, there's got to be something to this. This kid actually might get something out of this." And I've been doing stuff on stage ever since.
That's cool. And in Campbell, but the San Jose, South Bay area.
Yeah, San Jose, absolutely. San Jose.
That's amazing. And good God, that means you've seen Campbell Tech. You've seen that whole explosion.
Yeah, I was about to say, this whole growth, yeah.
I used to walk through orchards, literally walk through orchards to get to school when I was a kid. And now, you'd be hard pressed to find a fruit tree anywhere in that neck of the woods, right?
Right.
It's an amazing and beautiful evolution that we've seen down here in the South Bay area, for better or for worse.
Nice.
Well, it's the new reality.
Absolutely.
What technical training did you have in theater? Did you study it in college?
I did, yeah. So, I was in classes and that kind of thing coming up through high school and whatnot. I went to American Conservatory Theater for their summer training program back in, I won't even tell you what year because that was embarrassing.
Last century.
Yes, the last millennium, actually.
Oh.
If you think about it.
Right.
Yeah. So,
in the early 80s.
Back in the day. So that gave me my first taste of doing stuff like conservatory style, like really, really focused work, doing voice work as well as movement work, and the whole bundle. And that really made the decision for me that I wanted to go to a full conservatory style program as a college degree. And I went to California Institute of the Arts down in Los Angeles.
Yay, me too.
You did?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I was only there for 1 year, but in the 80s, mid 80s.
Yeah, I was there in the early 90s. I was there from 1990 to 1994. So I graduated the year of the Northridge earthquake, which affected us highly.
Oh, yeah, you were right up the road.
Yeah, absolutely. If people remember the images of collapsed freeways and that kind of thing, that was right in the neck of the woods that we were at. So, but yeah, that gave me a really, really good, solid experience, and not just the skills that I needed as an actor, but also looking at the art as the totality of the art. Because what was really great about CalArts for me was the fact that you'd sit down for lunch and you'd be having a conversation with a music major and a film major and somebody else that was in dance. And you get all those different perspectives coming at you when you're trying to solve a problem, when you're trying to come up with a creative way to do what you're working on. You'd get all these different voices coming at you to say, hey, have you thought about it for movement? Have you thought about what the picture is? Have you thought about what it sounds like?
Right.
So yeah, once I got out of there, I felt like I really had a good base to go on to do what I wanted to do. I came back to the Bay Area pretty quick after that, started working as an actor and as a director. But I've always wanted, from when I was young, really, the idea of running a company was always very important to me. So 2002, I ended up moving up to Sacramento, and myself, Stephanie Gallart, and Peter Mormon founded Capital Stage Company.
Yes.
Yeah, that was us. I got here's my 10-year anniversary mug that I'm drinking my coffee out of right now.
See.
So I was part of that organization for the first 10 years of its life. And then we all moved on. And so recently I've been back here in the Bay Area, came back to be close to my family. My mom passed away a couple of years ago, and I wanted to be close to her and help out the family as much as I could in her later years.
Definitely, we are sorry to hear that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
But I'm always thrilled when artists connect to their family, because people get disconnected, and you've got to remember, you make these stories come to life on stage. We are those stories.
Yeah.
Where we come from.
Absolutely. And my family and my British heritage has always been extremely, extremely important to me. So coming back and being a part of that transition in her life was as painful as it was a joy too. And I'm glad to be back here. Feel like I'm home now. And then I got this amazing opportunity in this last year to take over the artistic leadership of Tabard Theatre Company here in the South Bay area. So this is a new chapter in my life. Definitely a little bit of a strange chapter considering recent events. I didn't think I was going to be taking over in the middle of a pandemic.
You weren't planning for that?
No, that I didn't see that one in the cards. I missed that in the tarot reading. Somehow that one just passed right past me. But
yeah, I had a quick question for you, Jonathan. It's interesting talking about expectancies or whatever. Norman had mentioned. We were talking about improvisation and how life itself is improvisation, and how so you have to sort of think on your toes, and sometimes life can be theater because you're having to make all of these decisions or what have you. But the question that I had was, we've had a lot of conversations with individuals who had not gone to, who had not had formal training. And there are a group of actors or artists who do have formal training. And then there are those who just are, they have their own talent, but it comes from their own life experiences. Do you have a take on why you think academia is important, or why it was important to you to go to graduate school and all of the other trainings instead of just saying, hey, I think I've got some talent, so let me just go and do my thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's two very, very different things in my opinion. I had a mentor here in the South Bay early on, Richard Orlando. He founded and ran a company down here called Northside Theater Company that I had experience with as I was coming up. And I was really going back and forth because I was already having some success when I was in my, even before I was 20, in my late teens, I was already starting to get roles at companies that were respected. And I thought, do I need to go and do a degree? Is that the right thing? And the one thing that Richard said to me, which I always stuck with me, it's like the talent is always there. You get the training for when the talent fails you, so that you have something to fall back on. It's kind of funny because some people talk about go to school so that you have something else to fall back on if the art itself doesn't work for you. But what I've always thought of it as is you do the training, so the curtain goes up at 8:00 on Friday night, whether you're ready or not. And it's great if you feel it and you're there and you can bring all of those things and be in the moment. That's fantastic. And of course, what you always want to do. But there's going to be times that it's not. And you've got to be able to generate that from wherever it comes from inside of you. And sometimes it can be technical. If you know that you need to generate it in that way, the last thing I want to do is walk off stage and say, I just wasn't there tonight. I gotta give people what they're expecting, whatever night it is, whatever happened to me in that day. So there's definitely that side of it. The other side of it, and especially coming from Cal Arts, as I was saying, just that perspective of all the different arts and all the different ways of looking at the art that I came out of. I just felt like I had so much of a wider view by the time I came out of that school, because of the influence of the music and the dance and the cinematography and all the other things that were there and available. And you can get that just from having friends and conversations and sitting on the porch and having a beer. Absolutely. It's just a different way of getting that widened perspective, in my opinion. But the I guess technique is the way to say it, has been really useful and really helpful for me over the years. But talent and that core inspiration, that spark, that's where it's always got to start from. If you don't have that to start out with,
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think I know for myself, I really need it because, sometimes my brain, gets, scatters away. And so let's say at 8:00 when the curtain goes up, I may be focused. I may know my lines. I may know what's going on, but you never know what happens when you walk on stage and what may capture your attention. And you need the technique, like sense memory. or, the things to put up the fourth wall, or, just the little things. I know for every time before I go on stage, at least a half hour before the audience comes in, I do my vocal exercises, my resonators, making sure that, my voice is all warmed up. All the things that I learned from school. I may not need these things, but I mean, it sort of anchors me. I know that I'm what I call game ready. And I think it differs with everyone, but I totally get your perspective. And also getting the perspective, I mean, a lot of folks have tunnel vision. They get into theater because they want to do their type of theater their way, and they don't take in other people's perspectives. And when you talk about communicating with people who are dancers and singers and musicians, then you really do get an outside perspective of what you may want to do on stage, or get another perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The idea of sitting down with a group of people and solving an issue, coming at a piece of art from these different perspectives. The other thing I always think about, and this is a little bit different of a topic, but I like working on 2, 3, 4 different projects at a time, because I feel like, the one
you can do that, huh?
Yeah, the way I think about it, it's like you're cooking. You've got the one pot that's right in front of you, and you're working on that one, but you got other things on the back burners, and they're simmering away, and something just cross-pollinates. An idea because of the one you're working on right now just jumps over and ends up in that other mix, and it just becomes so much richer because of that, right?
Yeah,
I would say I definitely did that. I do that with teaching. First, I was just, I was looking for another way to pay the bills, but I found the approaches that I had, because of the limitations of a school environment, were just forced me to be more creative. And suddenly I was doing that wherever. I was like, oh, duh. The way I thought about casting, because it's weird. I always make analogies to the way the military works. Like a doctor in the military, a medic, in real life, a doctor's job is to help people, right? Do no harm. In the military, a medic's job is to support the mission. So if you got a gut wound and you got an arm, we're going to put you on morphine and sit you over in the other room. We're going to fix that arm and get you back to the front line, support the mission. And in theater, I was always thinking, oh, you got to cast like the best people in the best roles, because that's what works. Well, in your class situation, you've got a whole classroom to deal with. And you start realizing that your strongest actors need to be in those anchor roles, like Romeo and Juliet. It's I want to say Biandello. Is that right? No. Yeah, Romeo's best friend, who we see from the beginning of the play to the end of the play. That actor needs to be solid. The audience needs to connect to them from the first scene when they first see him to the end of the play when he's still standing and everybody has died.
Right.
We got to care about that. So that's where I need my strong actor, and it totally changed the way I think about casting. I don't worry about my Romeo and Juliet anymore. As long as you're vaguely pretty or we can put some makeup on you, you guys are going to be fine. We need a world that is dynamic and that is coming at you and is forcing you to deal. And the playwright actually did the rest of that work. If you do a good job, then the audience will cry a little bit more. But if you don't, the audience will feel that world closing in on you the way the playwright wants it to happen. I'm like, oh, suddenly I was freed as a director. I was like, oh, I can do whatever I want.
It reminds me so much of you can have a great quarterback, but if your offensive line is crap, then, that person's going to get crushed. So
right.
Surrounding your actors with really, really talented supporting actors, that really helps out. You can have a really superior offensive line and an actor and a quarterback who's sort of okay. You're going to do okay anyway.
Right. Yeah. You're going to get through the season. They're not going to lose points.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So getting back to Jonathan. So tell us about Tabard Theatre. How the connection between you and them. I mean, obviously they can offer you a job, but you saw something in Tabard Theatre that connects to you. Tell us about Tabard Theatre.
So Tabard Theatre, it really kind of came out of left field, the way that I end up getting connected. My girlfriend, my partner, Stephanie Wiggum, has been working for those guys in a number of different companies. She's an actress herself, but she's also a graphics designer. And so she was doing graphic design for these guys. She does it for a number of different companies here in the Bay Area, both South Bay and San Francisco and whatnot. So I was just kind of aware of what they were doing. I was seeing shows. I loved the space. I thought there's a tremendous potential. I felt like in the community theater world that they're really poised to go to the next level. Is kind of what I was seeing inside of what was happening there. They had this last season all set up. They were doing 39 Steps, very popular production.
Oh, wow.
A lot of different companies that have been doing it over the
Right. Didn't the stage do it not long ago?
Yeah, no, San Jose Stage has done it. I mean, it was just done at TheaterWorks in the same last year. I think TheaterWorks actually was remounting a production they had done several years before. Robert Kelly's last season, his 50th anniversary, Tony Award-winning season.
Right.
But so they were doing 39 Steps, and I had actually done a sound design for the 39 Steps for a company in Florida, of all places, with American Stage. So I had a sound design complete and ready to go. And so I reached out to Kathy Cassetta, who was she just stepped down as the founding artistic director of the Tabard Theatre Company. And I said, I'm interested in being your sound designer for 39 Steps. She came back to me and said, well, can you send me a resume? And I don't have a resume as a sound designer per se. I've done a lot of sound design as part of what I do in the theater, but never set up a sound design resume before. So I just sent her an email, a couple of pages long, about everything that I've ever done, including going to Sacramento and being a part of the founding of Capitol Stage Company, etc. So she sent an email back to me, which basically said, yes, we'd love you to be the sound designer for 39 Steps. Also interested in talking to you about being the production manager because we're looking to fill that position. And by the way, do you have any interest in applying to be the next executive artistic director of the theater company?
Wow. They wanted you bad.
Yeah, so I said, yes, absolutely. And within a couple of months, we had all those conversations and really talked about vision for the company and been introduced to the board of directors, and I was very thankfully selected to be the next leader of the company. So again, never thought that it was going to be inside of the COVID shutdown. We've been really looking about how do we reinvent ourselves now inside of everything that's going on socially inside of the world.
Yeah. Here's a question, because we've had a couple of artistic directors on. We've had recently Arino Mario, who is the artistic director for Bindlestiff, but also we've had Susan Evans on. We've had Linda Ayers Frederick. There was Off-Broadway West, although they're closed down, and those were run by the Harders. And I know that being an artistic director, you have to select the season, you have to select the pieces, and that itself is an artistic choice.
Oh, yeah.
Just as much as a choice of an actor on stage. Mm-hmm. And you sort of set the tone as to what this theater is about, and also what you're about. The play that's going on right now about Alonzo Fields, did you make that decision, or was that decision made before you became artistic director?
No, the season that was in process, which was ending with Looking Over the President's Shoulder, which is the story of Alonzo Fields, was absolutely set in motion, probably a good 12 months before I became associated in the position that I'm in now. And as a matter of fact, the season that we will be producing this upcoming year was very much sculpted by Kathy Cassetta before, that had all that work happened so far in advance. You're thinking about, once you're really making those decisions, you're making those decisions 12, 18, sometimes even longer months ahead of time, right? So this particular production, Looking Over the President's Shoulder, was absolutely in place and planned long before I became associated. What I think is really interesting is how it has changed, how our perspective about this particular piece has changed because of current events.
Right.
When Kathy Cassetta and Tabard put this in place, it was a very interesting perspective of an individual who went to Washington, D.C. With hopes of becoming an opera singer, who during the Depression needed to make ends meet, and ended up taking a job as a butler in the White House. And
during the Hoover administration, Herbert Hoover. That was his first president that he served.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now it's the story of a black man who went down that same path. You cannot escape that. And was that an important piece of the puzzle before current events and everything that's happening socially inside of the United States? Yes, absolutely. Was it the most present thing? No. But now, because of our lens has shifted, it becomes a much more important part of that story.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating that Tabard Theatre would have that in their mind. I mean, one of the things that we complain as Black actors, both Norman and I, are our representation on stage. You know, not only how we're represented, but even can we get on stage? You know, so a lot of times we may audition for something and, you know, they're like, well, you know, we really don't see you in this role or whatever. And it becomes problematic. But now you have Tabard Theatre bringing on a life story of a Black man who has had to navigate, you know, so many presidents and so many eras and times, you know, through World War II and through the Great Depression and through the Civil Rights Movement, all the way up to, I want to say, was it Jimmy Carter? Let me see. Who was the last president that he served?
No, he was just, Eisenhower was just
Yeah.
So it was during the Eisenhower administration that he actually left. So, and the interesting thing to me about that is that Eisenhower had Nixon as his VP. So you kind of see all that mess on the horizon in the end of that story.
Yeah, but you have a slice of life of American history, and you know, one of the things that we've had, you know, as far as and even just as far as my writing and, you know, and Norman's sort of career, whatever, is where is the Black man in American life? You know, if we can complain about just, you know, the decisions that we make, the jobs that we take or whatever, it's not so much us, but it's the world that we're in. You know, someone may, I don't know, choose a life of crime because they need to survive and they may justify that. Or someone may, you know, just acquiesce and take, you know, the desk job. And, you know, and that's that. But we all make decisions for our families. We make the best decisions that are made for us. And that alone is a story. And whether it's embraced by a younger generation or whatever, it's still a story. It's a story of my granddad. I could see my granddad being someone like, you know, Mr. Fields. So I think it's very prescient.
Yeah, and to me, that's really the core of the story. The core of the story is not about the color of the man's skin. It's about the socioeconomic things that he was dealing with. He made the decisions that he made because he needed to provide for his family, and it was during the Depression. One of the lines that is in the play is he says, you know, there weren't a lot of jobs for opera singers back in that day. And then he goes on to say, there weren't a lot of jobs, period. And that's really what was going on. The Great Depression, people were just struggling to survive. So to me, it's very much a story of the time, and the time had to do with a world where you just took the job that you could get, and you were thankful to be able to put food in your family's mouths.
Yeah. There's always been a tug of war within, I would say, Black society, and maybe even other minority societies, whether you're Latino or Asian or what have you. And we've talked about it before, Norman and I, you know, at the turn of the century, Booker T. Washington said, hey, we need to assimilate, we need to, you know, get better jobs so we can be better servants for, you know, the white sharecroppers or what have you. Whereas W.B. Du Bois says, no, we need to fight, resist, resist, resist. Richard Wright talked about this in his, you know, debate against James Baldwin. You know, when do you resist and fight, and when do you acquiesce or, you know, just give in a little? Even now, Ta-Nehisi Coates had a little debate with Cornel West about the legacy of Barack Obama. Some may say, oh, Obama was fantastic. And someone like Cornel West may say, well, no, he wasn't radical enough. So there's always these, it's almost like dimmers and faders, you know. When do you fade the dimmer higher or lower? So that would be my perspective. I mean, Norman, because I feel like I'm talking too much, you know.
No, well, I mean, the first thing I can't help but think is, because we mentioned it before we started recording, is this related at all to The Butler, the movie The Butler?
Yeah, actually it is. That movie.
Oh, with Forrest Whitaker, right?
Yes.
Yes. That is a much looser interpretation of the story of Alonzo Fields. So that is based on that man.
Yes.
But not so specifically. This is absolutely based on Alonzo Fields' memoir.
Okay, that's cool.
a reiteration of his words. It's taking his words out of the pages of the memoir and putting it up on the stage.
Yeah,
So,
no, I love that. I know, Reg, we do talk around these things, and I'm always intrigued. I have my personal biases, like anybody, but when it comes to that sort of monolithic discussion, that discussion of the monolithic black experience, I'm always troubled. And what I like much more is the specific. Give us somebody and put them in a context, and then we can discuss what their choices are, what options are there, and how well they navigate. That becomes a fruitful discussion. I want people to be. I don't want an audience to be uncomfortable to the point where they're not having a good time, but I definitely want them to sit up and kind of go, huh? Or what's this about? Or are you trying to tell me something about what's going on now? And personally, I love a story that has its own reality, that is its own message, its own thing, but it resonates in so many ways for what the audience is experiencing. And it sounds like this is that kind of thing where if people want to connect this up to Black Lives Matter, great. I got into a debate this morning about the phrase defunding the police. Somebody wants to change it. It's a horrible phrase. You're getting the wrong message, and we're not going to get support for that. And I'm like, well, in my whole lifetime, I have never heard people on the right say, well, of course we have to talk about police reform, but that whole statement has never come out of a right-winger's mouth with a tangible, these are things that we would support doing to make things different. That's happening only because we're talking about defunding the police. And what I love about it is, one, I'm not going to back off of that. If I got a scary weapon pointed at you and you're pointing a weapon at me, when we're having the conversation I want to have, I know I'm not going to kill you, but we're having the conversation I want to have. Tell me more about these reforms. You know what? That sounds like a good reform. Can we nail that down? Great. So, Senator, you'll support that? That's wonderful. You know what I can bring to the table? I'm going to let go of this idea of defunding the police. We're not going to abolish the police department. We're going to do those reforms you want. Never had that conversation. We wouldn't be having it if it weren't for what's going on now. So on the one end, we've got Black Lives Matter, and it's scaring the daylights out of a lot of people. Great. And on the other hand, we have a lot of people saying very reasonably, well, maybe we can do this. Or, Congress just voted to get rid of the statues. Mm-hmm. That conversation has been a non-starter for so long. So don't tell me let's get rid of defund the police. That's stupid. With a play like this, if people are feeling like their buttons are being pushed, I love that you get to just come back to the simple conversation of, well, this is actually the history. Were you aware of this history? How do you feel about this history? Bring the conversation back to what the play has to say, and then let people have their feelings and give them a place to say that's what we do. We give you a place to have these feelings.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing that we're trying to do, I keep thinking of it as, really good art is a conversation. It's not a one-way street. It's not us just telling stories. It's starting the conversation. We're going to start it by telling the story, but we want you to talk back and have your part of the conversation too. So that's what I'm trying to do more than anything else right now is, I've got a piece of theater up there that is a perspective. And if it gets us talking about stuff and it gets people thinking, that's fantastic. So, in a COVID world, we're doing these Zoom talkbacks. I'll be doing one after today's show.
Oh, wow.
I want to get as many people on the phone, on the internet, having these discussions and keep this going forward. It's a great energy going on in the world right now. Let's make sure that it's constructive, and let's make sure that it keeps going, because we might actually be able to change stuff. Let's make it happen. Yeah,
I think that's what theater is all about, and I think that's fantastic. And I'm sure James Creer is doing a fantastic job.
Is he local? Because that's the first time I've heard this name.
He's South Bay area. I don't think that he would describe himself as an actor first. I think he would describe himself as a singer first. He has been an actor for many, many years. And I think it's amazing. The job that he is doing, the fact that he's doing a one-man show. It's him on the stage for 2 hours, completely solo. Don't have anybody else to save him if something goes wrong. It's him carrying that the entire time. And now, because we've basically been turned into a live streaming theater, he's
Right.
having to do that without even the benefit of an audience to give him the energy back. So he's doing just a titan's job, holding the world on his shoulders and telling this story.
That's awesome. I'm
Who
interested.
directed?
Doug Baird is the director.
Okay.
I'm interested in the technical. So, I mean, it sounds like Tabard Theatre. I mean, for the time being, it's almost like a television studio. I mean, do you have 2 cameras, 1 camera? How is the tech being done?
Yeah, no, we're doing a 3-camera shoot. All the cameras are fully robotic cameras. We've had the great fortune to be helped out from Silicon Valley Community Foundation, gave us a grant to help us make this happen. But we're investing our time, our energy, and the little bit of money that we have into making exactly right. We're turning Tabard Theatre into a live stream studio for now. As a matter of fact, very seriously as a live stream studio because according to Santa Clara County, we cannot operate as a theater. We are legally a live stream studio. That is legally allowed. And so all of those considerations as well, in order to be working 100% above board, 250 square feet of airspace per individual, the types of things that I've had to figure out in the last couple of months are just a little bit crazy. But to get back to your original question, yeah, we're a studio, 3 cameras. Each one of those cameras, they're fully programmed. They have pan, tilt, and zoom on them.
Wow.
If you were to watch the stream right now, and there will be one later on this afternoon, if you were to watch the stream right now, it's a little shaky. We are learning as we go along, but it's still live. And that's what's so important to me, is that we're not taking and putting a performance in the editing studio and then making the best, most polished version that has a distance from even an internet audience. This is still live. You're still able to see exactly what's happening in those moments. So if the actor flubs a line, that's what happens. If the camera pans away and all of a sudden he walks off a frame, that's what happens. We're not going to be in a place where we can go back and edit any of that.
Yeah, no, there are so many theater companies that will just envy the Tabard Theatre because you're doing what a lot of theater companies would love to do, especially right now, because really it's all, hopefully your cameras are up. I'm doing a couple of Zoom readings, and you just hope that the actors have their, a good enough bandwidth and a good enough laptop job done. But Tabard Theatre, I mean, and who knows, it may be the future. This may be. Sure, you want to have a live audience sitting in the seats, but in the age of YouTube and Zoom and Vimeo, this may be another option. So,
and I think that's something that we're going to keep doing because, first of all, I think about when we are first able to come back, we're going to be able to come back in a socially distanced way. So we won't be able to have 150 people in the theater as we were normally having. Maybe we have only 50 people to start out with. And a lot of older folks are our patrons tend to be on the older side. Those people are at higher levels of risk. I think that it's going to be a longer time before they feel comfortable coming back. And then in the long run, I think about the idea that this is something that we could take our art to a completely different audience. For example, I have family in the United Kingdom. They're 8 hours ahead of us. We're doing a 12:30 show next Wednesday. It'll be the first time that some of my family are able to see anything that I've ever done because it's live. They can't come all the way here to this country to see something. They'll be able to tune in halfway around the world. So the ability to reach an entirely different audience, it's got its complications, it's got its challenges, but it's something that I think is here to stay, even when I can have an audience back in the room. I start thinking about somebody who maybe starts to experience us because of the live stream and then starts to say, well, I want to go and actually be in the theater because I want to see how they do it. We could have a whole new generation of people that are coming into the theater because they experience it on a live stream first. So,
building the bridge to that place where hopefully we do get back. There are things that are going to become a permanent part of how we make theater.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's exciting. I think it's exciting what Tabard Theatre is doing. It's fantastic. One last question, because it's 1:02. What is your future as the artistic director for Tabard? I mean, what are some projects that you can see happening in the future?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and I think that's going to be changing a lot right now because of the COVID virus, because of social distancing and things like that. What I am hoping to do in the short term is really open up our facility for a multitude of stories and voices. I want to give opportunities to any kind of story that I can find. People that might want to come down and have a partnership with us, rent the theater, do a co-production. I've had people reach out because we have this technology now. There's many theater companies that had shows that were up.
Right.
I've got those companies reaching out to me and saying, hey, is there any possibility that we could take that show and put it up on your stage? So
Wow.
I'm really interested in seeing that kind of partnership happen. It's going to be a while before I'm really announcing a season that is entirely my own.
Sure.
So I look forward to that as well. But in the near future, what I'm really interested in is partnering with those people that are disenfranchised right now just because of what's going on in the world, and saying, hey, I've got a way for us to be able to tell our stories. Come down, be a partner with me, be a partner with Tabard, and let's get those stories out there. And I'm so fascinated by trying to make that as inclusive and as diverse as possible. Anybody who's got something that's worth telling, a story that's worth telling out there right now, I want us to be able to tell those stories, and I want to be able to be there to listen. Think about what, so it's, I come from a place where I know, I don't think about it all the time, but I know that I have, what people would call white privilege. I come from a place where I don't have the same struggles as other people have. So I don't want to be the person who tells people what they should see or what they should listen to. I want to create a place where people can tell the stories that they want to tell. So I don't know, that might sound just kind of all highfalutin and stuff like that. But
No.
It sounds like a great place to start.
It is. And the thing about privilege is, you didn't create the privilege, it is what it is. But as far as an artistic director, you have that in mind. A lot of people have to come dragging and screaming to that perspective. And you haven't gotten there. You probably heard about the open letter. Is that what it's called, Norman? The
living letter.
Living document. Yeah.
Living document. Yes.
Have you heard about that, Jonathan?
I have, absolutely. I was part of the as soon as I heard about it, I started to get involved with that movement. I know that the Theater Bay Area has really taken up the mantle. I've been a part of that and trying to find a way to make, we think of ourselves as in the Bay Area, like we are really ahead of the curve. We're so, forging the way in the far left on the West Coast, right? But the reality is we all have blind spots. It doesn't matter how woke you are. You got to challenge yourself all the time to be better and be better and be better. So, I've been very involved in that. I'm really interested in hearing people, tell the perspective that they have. For a long time, I've been really trying to be, as much as I can, a champion for women's rights. I know that a ton of, you go back to the idea that there's 4 times more women in our industry than men, and there's like half as many roles, half as many parts.
Right.
Minimally, we should be looking, as myself as an artistic director and other artistic directors should be saying, half of the people in the world are women. That means that half of the stories that we tell should be from a female perspective. That just doesn't happen. I tip my hat to people like up at Shotgun Players. In response to that, a few years back, they did a season that was nothing but female playwrights. I just try to think of that as how can I do that for everybody's story? How can I do that and I know that I'm never going to be able to be perfect in that. I'm going to fail as many times as I succeed, but I want to dare to fail. I want to try to be better, and I want to try to be as inclusive and as open as possible.
Sounds good.
Yeah, no, you can't do it all. Spike Lee gets beat up every time he does a movie because they come at him, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? And it's part of I think it's a mark of success. If you do it well, people are going to come at you and say, well, why aren't you doing this?
Right.
Exactly. One quick question. Are you, because I'm thinking about equity, non-equity, are there opportunities for equity actors to get on stage at Tabard?
Not right now. That's actually working to our benefit at this moment, because one of the big difficulties that the unions are having is trying to work out contracts for live streams. So that, thankfully, of all of the issues that I've been wrestling with, is not one that I'm having to deal with right now. I would like to have opportunities for union associated performers going forward. But that's just going to be down the line. That's just going to have to be something that I fight when I have the bandwidth to even think about it.
The union's going to have to catch up.
No, they are. Just these, the streaming contracts with the licensing companies for the stories. The one that I have, everybody's still thinking of this like it's before streaming was happening. The contracts are really kind of weird. We're figuring out it as we go along, but people got to catch up, because this is what's happening. It's the only way that we're able to do things right now. So I hope that the unions are going to be able to support. I know that they're just trying to protect their membership. I'm a union member myself. I can't work on my own stage. I can't take a role on my own stage right now. But I'm definitely hoping that everybody catches up and we get on the same page. And somewhere down the line, I will definitely be talking to the unions and trying to figure out how I can get people from the unions up on our stage.
Sounds good. All righty. Well, we've hit the 1 hour mark. Shout outs, birthdays?
I swear to God, something was happening, and it makes sense. You start to get to the cold part of the year and everybody bundles up and they just start having babies. We got so many. So I'll try to go quickly. Jessica Uhr is an actress that I did. What do we call it? Everyday Alice. It was a sort of a modern take on if a grown-up Alice were in a relationship with a grown-up Peter Pan. It was a fun little play, and we had a wonderful little ensemble. Did it with Utopia Theater. That's where I met Jessica. Chico Perdaman is a wonderful actor who, before I was making money in the Bay Area theater and I was doing stuff, I remember talking to Chico once. We were just getting the African American Shakespeare Company up and running, had no money. And I said, but if somebody was going to offer you Hamlet, wouldn't you do it? And he's like, well, if they paid me. And I didn't used to understand that attitude. I totally do now. So Chico's somebody I've known a long time. Dawson Moore, playwright in the Bay Area. Annette Roman, playwright I've just met in the last couple of years through Playground, SF Playground. Rotimi, Akbabiaka. I always mess up his name. Rotimi is this amazing performer. He did Black Rider at Shotgun a couple of years ago. He's been doing a lot of solo stuff and trying to take it to both coasts. He's amazing. Ben Lippitz is somebody I went to Cal Arts with. And we just reconnected on Facebook a couple of years ago. Will Shattuck was the assistant director on the SF Shakes As You Like It, which I got to do last year. And it's an auspicious day to be talking about that because they are opening their show today. Sydney Schwint was I think our fight coordinator on that. Greg Manalo is a wonderful Filipino actor, dancer, martial artist, and clothing designer. Actually, he is part of the very hip. If you want to go for hip and local, this is like international fashion on the local level. I went to his house once, and he was just showing me these swaths of fabric. And I'm like, dude, you are serious. And they are. They make some beautiful stuff. Lauren Spencer, I think, is the first actress where I actually had to play a dad to somebody. I was like, wow, I feel weird about this. You're grown. I'm playing your dad. Amanda Sheldon is the other partner of Matt Shelton at the Shelton Theater in San Francisco. Brian Thorstensen is a playwright. He's known as a playwright and a teacher. But I first met him as an actor when we both did a high school, it was a Miri Baraka play, The Toilet, and it's set in a high school bathroom, so we were very young. Howard Johnson Jr., actor that I got to do, one of the first shows that the Oakland Public Theater ever did was called Blackballing, and Howard was one of our athletes. Dale Albright, who you probably were going to mention, so I won't say more. Michael Curry, young actor. I guess he's not that young, but he keeps playing boys. And he was in Black Odyssey at Cal Shakes, which was so successful they brought it back, and then I think they took it, or they were planning to take it north. I think this COVID thing might have bumped that. William Razzo is somebody who's involved with the Anton's Well Theater, and I guess he's also directing in other companies. Almost done. Kitty Pine is somebody who I knew by another name, but on Facebook she is Kitty Pine. She's a young Latina. It was weird. When 9/11 happened, I was in rehearsal for a show as an actor, and I was just starting Oakland Public Theater, and we were going to have a reading of I wanted to do a local playwright. And this woman was an immigrant, and her lawyer told her, you are about to go to court. You cannot have a story up right now. And I had this whole cast of actors, including Kitty, who we sat down for our first rehearsal, and I said, so we are not going to do the show. We're going to do another show. I'm going to talk to each of you individually and ask if you want to stay with the project, which wasn't even the play we were doing, and she stayed with us. I'm so grateful. And last, Jamie Myrick, who technically is not a theater person, but her husband is Kevin Myrick, who does all the tech for the African American Shakespeare Company. Birthday folks for this week.
And my list is shorter. Tom Ferris, I acted with him we did 110 in the Shade at the Douglas Morrison Theater. And so his birthday today, he's 70 years old. Happy birthday, Tom. Also, Lindsay Schmelzer, her birthday is tomorrow. Lindsay Schmelzer, I've worked with her at Town Hall Theater. She's usually the musical director at the Town Hall, and she was a guest on the Yay. And she and her husband are involved in theater. It's always good to have a couple who are bonded by theater.
Yay.
And I think one other person, you said Dale Albright.
I didn't give any credit to, so say who he is.
Well, Dale Albright, he runs. He doesn't really run, but he's a part of the Theater Bay Area. So, but he's also an actor, and I think he directs as well.
And he directs, yes.
Yes. And the last person I have is Barbara Michelson Harder. She is the partner, the wife of Richard Harder, and they ran Off-Broadway West before that closed down, I think, earlier this year.
And they moved north.
That's right. They moved north. They moved to, I believe, Washington. So that is it. And any shows, Norman, do you have any shows going on other than talk radio?
Radio golf.
Radio golf.
No, thankfully, radio golf, and then I get to take a break for a while.
Yeah, both of us will be doing radio golf today at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's the August Wilson piece. I think I forget the.
Oh, are we 5 p.m.? Oh crap!
Yeah. Because I've got another one at 8
I got to send messages out to other people. Jeez, I sent out 5:30. Uh-oh.
Yep. So radio golf, that is, I think it's the Charlottesville Players. They're a group in Virginia, and they've recruited us, folks from the Bay Area, to do the play. It's, as Norman said earlier, it's the last piece of August Wilson's, I think it's
Pittsburgh Cycle.
Yeah, the
Century Cycle?
Yeah, the Century Cycle, yes. Yeah.
So that's been very cool. And Norman and I, we've been involved in another one earlier, Gem of the Ocean. That was earlier this month.
Right.
And and now we get to do radio golf. So that'll be.
We just can't stop it.
Yeah. So that'll be at 5 p.m. And then 3 hours later, I wrote a play called Ang Espia, which is Tagalog for the spy. And that will be part of a one-act play piece that Bindlestiff will be showcasing. That'll be at 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So anyone who wants links to that, PM me directly, and I will send you the links. So that's what
And I put in the chat, the King Lear, SF Shakes, Free Shakespeare in the Park, they open today.
Yeah,
And which is funny because on their thing it said last week, but all the stuff I'm seeing online today says they're opening today. 7 o'clock, and then they'll be running Saturdays 7 o'clock and Sundays 4 o'clock, and Monday Labor Day 4 o'clock will be the last show.
And of course, we have to Looking Over the President's Shoulder. That is the Tabard Theatre's production of the play Looking Over the President's Shoulder about Alonzo Fields, and that opened. I think it opened yesterday, correct?
Yeah,
and
we opened last night. That's right.
Woo!
We got another one at 3, so I'm going to have to head over there pretty darn quick and get ready for that.
Yeah, so we'll have a link for that for anyone watching the Yay. So we want to showcase that. Anything else going on, Jonathan, that you want to showcase?
Yeah, I've just, a huge shout out to all those folks that are working at SF Shakes, and the fact that they put Jessica Powell as Lear in King Lear. I think that is fantastic.
I know.
She's amazing. We worked on Coriolanus at PAC Rep last year. She played my mother in that one. I played Coriolanus, the man himself, and dang.
That's incredible.
That was an honor to be on the stage with her. I cast her up at Capitol Stage up in Sacramento. She worked on a project up there with me, and I just love her. I think it's fantastic that she's got the opportunity. And then the only other thing that I wanted to bring up is that we lost a dear friend and a great theater advocate in the Sacramento area. Lisa Lacey passed away suddenly this last week, and I just wanted to remember her. Tremendous Black actress and artistic voice in the Sacramento area, and unfortunately, I don't even know the full detail of what happened. It was very sudden that we lost her this last week. So I just wanted to remember her.
Thank you for mentioning it, because I saw Margot Hall had posted and said, Lisa, gone too soon.
Yeah.
And I was like, who's Lisa? Nobody in the comment stream said. There was, like 100 people commenting. Nobody said who they were talking about. I was like,
Yeah, no, she's tremendous activist in the Sacramento area. I mean, I say this with all the love in the world. She's the type of person that probably more people would remember because she annoyed the heck out of them trying to get the right thing done in her life. She was always in the face of the politicians and the people that held the purse strings and made the decisions, trying to make sure that there was, an equity and a diversity of the voices in the Sacramento arts scene. She's a huge, huge advocate, and it's a huge loss to the community.
Wow. Yeah.
That's great. No, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
John, did you enjoy yourself?
I did. I had a great time. Thank you so much. I was saying it was a really long time before we were able to put this together. Everything does happen for a reason. I'm glad that I was able to, to talk about what we are doing over at the Tabard Theater. But gosh, I wish we'd done it a year ago and done this one. And I can't wait to do that.
No, thank you so much. No, it was a great thrill to finally speak to you. I knew you as an actor, but now, as a creative and as an artistic director, I can tell Tabard Theater will be doing magnificent things under your leadership. So thank you so much. All righty. So, folks are watching the Yay right now, probably on YouTube, if you clicked on the Facebook link. But we also have the audio of the Yay, and you can listen to that on any podcast that you listen to your apps. If you're a iPad, an iPhone user like myself, you can use it. Yeah, I know. It's the podcast apps, any podcast that you listen to, your podcasts. And also, we're on Spotify. We're on SoundCloud. If you're an Android user, you can use the SoundCloud app or just go on SoundCloud.com. The Yay was created by theater people for theater people. If you have a show you want to advertise, or if you just want to advertise yourself, let us know. Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm at Reg Space Clay.
And I'm at Hoosier.
Jonathan, how can people find you? We'll have a link to the tabardtheatrecompany.org, but how can people find you directly?
Tabard Theater is probably the best way, but you can find me on Facebook, Jonathan Williams on Facebook. I'm probably not good enough at making sure that me personally is out there in the world. So yeah, I would say go find me through the theater. That's the best way that I want to be known going forward. That's going to be my voice. So.
I hear you. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. And as we always say, we gotta find
a better sign off.
And we are out.